I asked Kyle Shanahan about Baker Mayfield. I like asking Kyle about quarterbacks that he's facing because he really will reveal his feelings, what he thinks about him. Last week, I asked about Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if I asked, someone asked. Kyle's response was tepid. He basically said he's talented. He said he's tall. It was so funny. When you hear Kyle talk about a quarterback's talent, you know he doesn't like him. He's tall, strong arm, and he can run around, create plays off schedule. I was thinking, oh, you don't respect him at all. Then Nick Bosa said the game plan was to make Trevor Lawrence play quarterback and take away the quick game. I was like, oh, yeah, they don't respect Trevor. Then I watched Trevor play against the Niners, and I was like, I see exactly why Kyle Shanahan and the Niners don't respect Trevor Lawrence because, like, honestly, that is who he is. He's not particularly refined. He's talented. And Kyle doesn't seem to respect talented quarterbacks. He respects refined quarterbacks. So I asked Kyle about Baker Mayfield. Here's what he said. You mentioned the other day that you respect, this is what I said. You mentioned the other day that you respect Baker Mayfield and the way he plays quarterback. What specifically about him do you like? Here's what Kyle said. And this is after he snapped at me. I maybe snapped is too much. And this just shows you that he can do business. He just gets defensive. But you ask a question like this, and he's like, all right, this is a fair question. I'll answer it. Just watching how he plays, Kyle said. You watched him last week. I mean, how decisive he was, how he gets rid of the ball. Every time they had the right look on that. He had zero hesitation when he had the wrong look. He didn't hesitate. He progressed and didn't sit there and wait on some bad things. He's been getting rid of the ball as fast as anyone in this league, not taking sacks. I think he only has 4 turnovers when he also is not scared to let it go at all. He can throw that ball. He can take 3 hitches and throw it late 60 yards down the field. He also has a knack for making plays with his legs. To me, that's real praise coming from Kyle. Decisive. He never said that about Trevor Lawrence. And frankly, I didn't think Trevor Lawrence was decisive. He took a lot of sacks last week because he held on to the ball. It seems to me Kyle's saying Baker's different. Baker was a number 1 pick, but not because he's tall. He actually is decisive, and he's not turning the ball over. He says he can throw it. He says he can throw that ball. He can take 3 hitches and throw it 60 yards down the field. Have you ever heard him say that about Brock Purdy? Have you ever heard him say he can throw that ball? He can take 3 hitches and throw it late 60 yards down the field. No, that is real admiration. That is a coach who I think probably thinks the opposing team has the superior quarterback this week. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like he thinks Baker Mayfield is Brock Purdy plus. You could say that Brock Purdy's decisive. He is. But he can't throw that ball like Baker Mayfield. So it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Baker Mayfield's on the 49ers someday. That's kind of what I got from this. Like, they got Sam Darnold, but it sounds like Kyle prefers Baker Mayfield. And if Mayfield bounces around and accepts his role as a backup someday, he could be Brock Purdy's backup. Or he could just be the starter one day. That sounds like real admiration and praise. I don't know. A little scary. But think about it this way. Let's say the Niners had Baker Mayfield and the Bucks had Brock Purdy. Who'd win? Would the betting line even move? I think the Niners would win. And I don't think the betting line would move. I think if you put Brock Purdy on the Bucks with no run game and no Kyle Shanahan, and his job was to throw it downfield to Mike Evans, he'd have a tough time. Like, I don't think that Brock Purdy could go to the Bucks and do what Baker Mayfield's doing. I do think that Baker Mayfield could come to the 49ers and do what Brock's doing. You know, check it down to Christian McCaffrey, check it down to Deebo Samuel, and occasionally hit the schemed up downfield throw that Kyle Shanahan created. Make some plays. Don't turn the ball over. Anyway, it's always interesting to see who Kyle respects and doesn't at quarterback. We know he respects Kirk Cousins. We gathered that he doesn't respect Trevor Lawrence. I think he respects Baker Mayfield. Maybe that's going to play into this game. Maybe that's going to play into their game plans.